perfect organism.
Well, I did it, all right? It's done. I killed him.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Rise a knight! Rise a knight!
We got a Black Hawk down, we got a Black Hawk down.
If you created me, who created you?
A bottle of wine that tastes like you. A glass that's never empty.
Yannick, if you don't stop it, there won't be any home to go back to.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Hello, hello. And welcome back to another episode of Ridley Scott, The Duellist. So the two films we're going to talk about in this duel will be 1492, Conquest of Paradise, and Alien Covenant. When I was talking to my wife about how I had been pairing up some of these duels, I think that this one was a little bit of a head-scratcher at first, until she realized that both of these movies are kind of essentially, the plots are kind of about the same thing, even though I think maybe the overarching thing is that the Alien Covenant is kind of more about how it's about creation and creating, and 1492 is kind of more about discovering and finding. But anyway, though, so I thought it'd be interesting to find like two films that on their surface are very different in the way that they're presented. So here we go again with Ridley Scott and his eclectic filmography. So we're going to start this off with 500 years ago, Spain was a nation of fear and superstition. The crown and a merciless inquisition punished all who dared to dream. A single man defied this power, crossing the unknown sea in search of honor and gold. All right, so in 1992, there were two movies that were released about Columbus discovering the New World. And I couldn't think of maybe a worse idea. So here we've got Ridley Scott's 1492 Conquest of Paradise and Christopher Columbus, The Discovery, which was made by the Salkinds. Those very even-headed gentlemen who helped finance and get the Superman movies made, and all of their really great decisions. Look into that. Because they had made these Three Musketeer movies, they thought it would be a great idea for Superman movies to become slapstick. Anyway. So 1492, Conquest of Paradise. An amazing cast that includes Armand Assante, Sigourney Weaver, Kevin Dunn. When you think historical dramas about Europeans coming to the New World, you think about putting a Chicago in, like Kevin Dunn in it. And we've got Arnold Vosloo, from The Mummy, and he's got hair. Nothing stranger than seeing Arnold Vosloo with hair. And I know I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. Takeki Karjo. This is the gentleman who was like second build behind Bart the Bear on The Bear. Imagine you're on the call sheet for the bear, and the bear is above you. And then the amazing Michael Wincott as Maxica. Gets all the great lines in this movie. And of course, it's headlined by Columbus himself, played by Gerard Depardieu. We have another Highlander situation, where we're getting a Frenchman, although Christopher Lambert is not French. But we have a Frenchman who's playing a Italian or a Spaniard or whatever the hell Columbus is supposed to be. All I know is that the Italian Americans have made Columbus a figurehead of greatness, and the guy is probably Spanish. Whatever. So Alien Covenant, a very interesting cast that you have there. Amongst one of the more interesting castings being like Danny McBride. For any of the people who watch some of his comedies, I mean, he's such a big personality and kind of an absurd kind of presence. I always describe him as being Southern redneck adjacent with an amazingly over-articulated vocabulary. It's quite a treat. Catherine Waterston, who I think is supposed to be wearing Eddie Redmayne's wig from... So she's wearing Eddie Redmayne's wig from Fantastic Beasts. And I guess she's supposed to be our, like, Sigourney kind of fill-in here. I think she does a really good job. I am one of the rare people who will go to bat for Alien Covenant. I was actually a pretty big fan of Prometheus. And I liked it because it was a different kind of movie in the Alien franchise. But I appreciate the fact that Alien Covenant kind of gets back to a little of the more horror roots of what it can be. It's there's an interesting question. I guess, does a xenomorph actually show up in this movie? I guess it does. I'm thinking that I think the final the final beast that shows up is a xenomorph. I'm not even particularly sure if the one that becomes birthed from Oram, Captain Oram, is a xenomorph. It might be close to one because of the whole experiments that they have. You get to see a neomorph, which looks completely different. I think because of its origin of not being from a face hugger. This is another one of these things where my daughters see the box art for Alien Covenant, and they're just amazed at the design of this thing. And I had showed my one daughter some other designs from Giger, and I think my wife now regrets that I had done that. You should see some of the things that she draws now. She's gotten really into Five Nights at Freddy, and she doesn't play the game. She just sees like clips of this stuff on YouTube, I guess YouTube, and it's all she'll draw is Five Nights at Freddy. I think I fucked up, kind of showing her some of this Giger stuff. I was trying to explain it to her so that it made a little more sense. And she's kind of fascinated now. I gotta get her back to like ponies. So, all right, so back to our duel here. So 1492 and Alien Covenant are both films about a journey to a new world. And what essentially happens on both of them is that they land in places that they weren't expecting. There's things about the land that they don't understand. The land will kill you. Literally. And you've got people that just don't... They deal with it in violence or ignorance. Bad decisions get made. And some people die. Coincidentally, both movies have... a dismemberment of a hand, done in very, very different ways. So, 1492 is a little bit of a bloated movie. It's strange to see coming off of Thelma and Louise, where you figure that Ridley Scott might be kind of honing this craft of maybe he should be making Thelma and Louise type movies. The look of it, the feel. You know, he got a lot of accolades and an Oscar nomination from Thelma and Louise. And instead is making like a David Lean type movie. And it's something he hadn't actually kind of ventured into yet. World building is a part of his oeuvre. I don't know if he had gotten into a David Lean situation yet. And you'll see many more of those in his films to come. Yeah, so it, bringing death to the natives, that happens in both of these movies too. Whether it be the indigenous people or the engineers. You know, they're both on their way to find paradise, as Maxa says, we find no gold or your earthly paradise. I'm really bad at doing the Michael Wincott voice. Michael Wincott has an amazing voice anyway. So, I mean, how could you go wrong with having, Armand Assante in your movie? Has anybody seen this guy lately? He looks like a cobra. I think he's slowly turning into a snake. Yeah. And if you haven't seen Alien Covenant, I would see that. I like the look of the movie. Like, I don't know where they are. It's so misty. I don't know, Ireland? Must be Ireland. Although I think it's New Zealand. I think they went to New Zealand because of the certain verdant qualities. I think it's a beautiful looking movie. I think it's another one of these situations where Ridley Scott's the guy who goes the place to actually make the movie in that place, as inconvenient as that might be, because maybe you just recreate it on a soundstage. You know, they joke about how Marvel films are all filmed in a parking lot in Georgia. If you ever see these behind the scenes things about how they actually do make them, I don't know. It's I'm glad the final product at least looks good, because the filming of it looks very uninspired. I think there's something really neat and tangible about a Ridley Scott movie, even if they're failures. 1492, and I watched it recently. Something about it at least I appreciate the majestic nature of it. The fact that it looks like a real place. Man, when they get to the New World, it's so obnoxious because all you hear is like locust or cicada sounds. And it's just like the soundtrack for like the rest of the movie. Just gets in your ear and it's just like, I can't even do the sound, but you just hear that shit and it just won't get out of your ear. And the atmosphere of it is there. The atmosphere in Covenant is there. Looks like a real place. Looks like a place maybe that would be Earth-ish. Probably one of the great reasons why, Lord of the Rings filmed in New Zealand. Because it looks like Earth, but a different Earth. So good. I don't have a lot of great things to say about these movies. As much as I like Alien Covenant, I think it's a fun time. I don't have a very fevered kind of discussion about Covenant and 1492. Both movies are about the pursuit of paradise and how it's not always going to be the place you dream for it to be. At one point, Alien Covenant was going to be called Paradise Lost, which I know there's two reasons for that. I remember being a kid and when the 1492 teaser trailer using the moon landing audio for when he lands on the beach and crashes to his knees, I always thought that was amazing. It seemed like it was going to be like the biggest movie ever. And speaking of big, I know that with his continued icon status in Europe, Gerard Depardieu is one of like France's like greatest actors. He's kind of like their De Niro Brando, and he's like the weight of the two men together. Some comedian made a joke about that he's like his own planet and has his own like gravity pull, that he thinks like the moon gets drawn to him. Now I know that like he changes his residency all the time. He was living in Russia at one point, or Italy, because he doesn't like to pay taxes. He's a hell of a presence. Yeah, hell of an actor, but man, what a weird choice for Columbus. Yeah, and I like that these two movies can be about the pursuit of that paradise. Sometimes you meet monsters, and occasionally you are the monster. Well, bazing. There we go. The pursuit of paradise is either you meet the monsters or you are the monster. So this is a bit of a shorter duel. Had a little bit of a delay between doing this one here. Life gets in the way. So, but who will win the duel between 1492, The Conquest of Paradise, and Alien Covenant? I am going to edge it out and say I'm going to give it to Alien Covenant. There's something about the movie, at least it has certain qualities about it that I just find grossly beautiful. There's like a Bosch painting. I think that I think I've watched it more than 1492. So I'm going to edge out the Duel and say Alien Covenant. And even the Xenomorph knew that Jesse Smollett is a bad dude. So that'll be it for now. We'll see you on the next Duel. And with that, Michael Wincott has got a really cool voice. All right. Bye for now.
For 4 years now, we are here. We stay here. 4 years. Because we believed your promises. But we find neither gold nor your earthly paradise.
Hello. This is Ridley Scott, the Duellist, with me, Sean Nolan. So, on today's Duel, we're going to be talking about G.I.Jane and Thelma and Louise. So, all right, let's get kind of down to it. There was a period of time where Ridley Scott was making Tony Scott movies. It seemed that a lot of their styles were starting to overlap, and you would see movies like, visually, you'd see things like Days of Thunder, Black Rain, The Last Boy Scout, True Romance, Thelma and Louise. There was like a certain kind of look that these movies had, and maybe it was just kind of like the Scott-free kind of, the both of them just kind of taking in, all the different creative elements and kind of coming up with a look for a product. It's interesting though, because like the movies like G.I. Jane and Thelma and Louise, I would say that Thelma and Louise starts to become the new visual language for Ridley Scott, where he takes the new Scott-free look and puts it in a new direction. And I think that Tony Scott just kind of continued doing that, because you'll see some of the visual styles of movies that come after 1991. Ridley, is kind of going between different, ways of shooting things. Whether they be these large, epics with practical, fighting. But the one thing that always kind of stayed very true is that we're calling it the Tony Scott look, where everything kind of looks like the scene from True Romance where Brad Pitt is high on the couch and James Gandolfini is chatting with him, where you're using an enormous amount of artificial light to make it look like natural light. Whether they be shards of light or, more kind of subdued type. There's a certain kind of laid back type of thing. There's ceiling fans, and I don't know what's up with the ceiling fans. You always got to find ceiling fans. But G.I. Jane, G.I. Jane and Thelma and Louise, they make very good use of ceiling fans. So it's the ceiling fan double feature. But no, what it really is that this is the two movies that Ridley made in the 90s that are, I guess you could say, it's more of his feminist double bill. And they're not very subtle about it, and that's fine. We're talking about a guy who has one of the most, famous, strong female characters. Of course, I'm referring to Ellen Ripley from Alien. So would you be surprised that he would make what are actually two excellent movies where your leads are strong women, whether they find their strength, by the end of the movie, or they start off as strong and have to make everybody else around them notice it because they've got their head up their ass. But I'll actually going to start with G.I. Jane, even though it came after Thelma and Louise. So let's see. I was in high school when I had heard that they were making this movie, and I think I saw it. Might have been in college when it did come out, and I remember the movie when I initially saw it. Enjoyed it a lot, and I thought it was kind of it was a tit movie. There's no other way to say it. Having Demi Moore in that movie, with her, like her husky, smoky voice. A lot of times I don't think wearing like a bra or anything, and she's working out and sweaty, and I just remembered being like, man, this is it's a tit movie. They're like kind of forcing us to look at like these erect nipples, which being like 18 at the time, I was like, or 17. I can't remember how old I was when I saw it, but I was like, oh, okay, sure. I think I was 17. But I one of the things I loved about G.I. Jane was I'm very fascinated by Navy SEAL training. There's something very. I think there's a lot of it happens to be like weaning off those that don't want to stick around, but there's also like an initiation to it, where if you get through SEAL training, it's like this amazing, like, just metal that you can carry, on your sleeve. And, it's at one point when I was getting to the end of high school, I had thought about joining the military. And I know anybody who knew me then would be laughing their ass off right now, because there's no way that they would believe that I would join the military. But I did not have a lot of prospects for my future, and I did find something very honorable about finding, being a part of something, having a purpose, and I guess it's that, the part of like the SEAL training, if you got through that, something you carry with you. Yeah. And yeah, I one of the things that's fascinating about G.I. Jane is being, this movie that seems like it's a, just based from the trailer where, they're saying it's like, one woman against everyone, where she's being either set up to fail, or, they're just, it's making it about like some kind of sexism where, it's about inclusion. She doesn't belong here, but, we're going to let her go through anyway. I think at the, around that time they had the Citadel, it had the female cadet. And when I cannot remember if she had actually dropped out or something, but after she had left, they had like, all the other cadets were like cheering that she was gone. And I don't know, I always thought that was kind of very like shallow and shitty. But I don't see G.I. Jane as being a movie about how this woman doesn't really belong there. If anything, I think it's almost the flip side of it, where the characters in that film the other cadets, these macho men. There's some real like this fragile masculinity about what happens if she makes it and I don't, or if she makes it further than I do, and what does that mean? How does that define me? And I guess it's kind of thrown around a lot, but the toxic masculinity of what if you don't belong? You're thinking like, I joined this because I wanted to be the best, and I wanted to be tough and grr, and women are supposed to be soft, and they have brittle bones. I made a joke with my wife the other day where I said I said that she had she had hollow bird bones. Meanwhile, I'm pretty sure that if I got into a fight with her, she would fuck me up pretty bad. I mean, I don't know. I think I can hold my own. Well, you know what? That's a good point. I think my wife and I have to fight. I bet I could beat her ass. Yeah? We'll have to see. I'll have to ask her. I wonder... See, now I'm thinking about it. I'm challenging myself. Let's see. Where do we go from there? I'm actually joking. Okay, so that's my little side about Thelma, about G.I. Jane. So we'll come a little more back to that. But with Thelma and Louise, again, it's you're taking like the idea of it being lovers on the run. And when I say lovers, I'm using the term of being like in stories or in film, there can be a romance, and the romance doesn't have to be like sexual or carnal. It can be more of an emotional connection between two people that are just very close. And that's what's great about Thelma and Louise. I mean, this is a terrific movie. A lot of times I think that they try and make movies like Thelma and Louise, and they just fail. There were a couple of them. I think they resort to too much either comedy, or they start tacking on things like somebody's got cancer. I mean, why can't it just be about a woman who's just fed up with where she is, and another one who just wants to support her? Maybe just, have a good time. I mean, it doesn't have to be, them having to leave their significant other. It could just be, what if we just got away for the weekend and just kind of like, blew things off, got drunk, got into some trouble, but not too much, because, I might want to go home. I just need to blow off some steam. And we've got Harvey Keitel. He's back. I was watching The Duellists, and I thought, well, you've got Keith Carradine and Harvey Keitel in this movie. And I was like, having these two pretty big name actors, and they never worked with Ridley Scott again. And then watching Thelma and Louise, I was like, you idiot. There's Harvey Keitel right there. And it was the 90s. I mean, Keitel that was hot property, man. Harvey Keitel was the shit. It's, he wasn't doing Scorsese movies anymore, but, he would be in, I remember thinking that, after Pulp Fiction, I was like, Harvey Keitel's in a movie. I was like, is he wearing like a shirt and tie? Does he shoot some people? It's something I just associated with him. He doesn't have to always be a criminal, but I mean, between like Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Bad Lieutenant, and I'm going to think of one later that's going to make me go, duh. But, he was doing prestige movies, he was doing independent films, he was producing, Keitel was fucking everywhere, and he was the shit. And he's great in this. being that like he's the one in pursuit of them, but he's got a little bit of compassion for them. Again, a character that they fuck up way too much in movies. I think one of the negatives that happened with Thelma and Louise was that it became like a feminist fantasy. But it's not. It's not a feminist fantasy. It's a feminist reality. I mean, it has an extremely iconic ending now. It's the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid ending. What a terrific way for them to, for you to just get those two characters burned in your head, because you don't see them die. You don't see them die. They were here. They lived. They got into some adventures, got into some trouble, and then they were gone, just like that. Yeah. It's amazing because they're at in the beginning of the 90s, you'd figure, who's going to be playing these two powerful women. And, having, two very, like, strong personalities and presences like Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis. I mean, Gina Davis is, just this beautiful, tall woman. And Susan Sarandon's got, like, those very, striking eyes. And both of them are, they don't just play it on TV. They actually are strong women in real life who advocate for what they believe in, whether it's certain things like politics, corruption, women's rights. Gina Davis has made a documentary about female actresses and some of the bullshit that they've had to put up with. And this was even I think this might have even been before everything coming out. I had found a little bit of trivia about the fact that they were trying to see who could they get to play these women, and they were thinking, what if it was Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn, which sounds interesting. I don't know how well that comes off. So I think they lack a certain amount of danger. And instead, the Streep and Hawn went off to go do Death Becomes Her. So, good for them. Let's see, who else? There was also Michelle Pfeiffer and Jodie Foster. I would see that. I would see that movie. Pfeiffer and Foster, which around that same time, both of them were being pursued or were pursuing Silence of the Lambs. And, so Jodie Foster went off to go do that. And I had read that the writer had wanted Holly Hunter and Frances McDormand, who in real life are friends, or they were roommates in college. And I think that I think the danger level might be there with them. Holly kind of has like a very fast talk, sharp wit type thing. And Frances comes off as a pretty strong woman. So I think they might have, I would have seen that one. I think I would be curious what that movie would have been like. And so I really love the movie. I think that it's the best example of some of the not being subtle, like the asshole with the like the naked lady mud flaps, and how they shoot his truck and blow it up. I mean, there's nothing subtle about that, but that is so great and fits so perfectly. Like really just kind of sticking it to him. Like you're going to act like a shithead, and this is us literally firing a shot at you. Get your shit together. Respect women. Stop sticking your head out the window and making lewd gestures. But crazy. If you were to show me Thelma and Louise and ask me if Ridley or Tony made this, I might have gone with Tony Scott. G.I. Jane seems like a movie that Tony Scott would have made. I mean, there's actors that are in G.I. Jane that I would expect to be in a Tony Scott film. In fact, some of them were in Tony Scott movies. Viggo Mortensen was in G.I. Jane. He was in Crimson Tide. Speaking of other people in the cast, Jim Caviezel, young Jim Caviezel. This is before he became like a kind of a right-wing QAnon nut job. I was always a big fan of Jim Caviezel, and he's kind of ruined it for me. But I like he comes off really great as a kind of a fragile, good old boy. Morris Chestnut. It's always great to see Morris Chestnut. And Josh Hopkins. Here he is in this movie, a guy that they were trying to, think maybe he might become a star, and he didn't. I'm not being mean. You see Josh Hopkins show up in other movies, and you're just like, this guy's just around. He's like a rock. But here's a nice Tony Scott connection. There is footage in G.I. Jane that's actually from Crimson Tide. One thing you can expect from the Scott boys is that they will reuse footage from other movies all the fucking time, especially if it's on the water. Like Kingdom of Heaven reusing footage from White Squall. So and a nice little connection between these two movies is that there are two women in the bar in G.I. Jane whose names are Thelma and Louise. No shit, right? Yeah. So, I don't have anything really bad to say about either one of these movies. I think Demi Moore is somebody who kind of missed the boat on. She became a huge star, and it didn't last. I think she's great in this. I loved her in Striptease. I like her voice, and I don't care what anybody says. Striptease is fucking hilarious. So, I like both of these movies. I think that if we're going to have a proper duel between the, these woman power films that Sir Ridley had made in the 90s, the duel will be won by Thelma and Louise, because Thelma and Louise is a terrific film. It is the movie that got Ridley Scott his first Oscar nomination for Best Director. G.I. Jane is the movie that he made right before going off to make Gladiator. So I guess he did a good enough job making G.I. Jane to not lose that job. So, yeah, I think for a while there, it looked like Ridley Scott was going to have a kind of a mediocre type career. But as I've always said, I love his movies because even if they're not good, the guy swings. He tries to hit a home run every time. And I give a lot of props to people who try and will fail, as opposed to just doing blah. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it would have been fun to have seen Ridley make another kind of fun movie like Thelma and Louise again. I think if anything, maybe G.I.Jane needed to have a little bit more humor. Because Thelma and Louise it's a funny movie. Brad Pitt, kind of made into a star from Thelma and Louise. And Gina Davis is the one that wanted him. A little side note, apparently George Clooney was up for the role that Brad had. And George did not get it. So everybody turns out to, find each other eventually. I wonder if they knew that. Did Brad ever said that to George? Anyway. So I'll, like I said, Thelma and Louise wins the duel. Harvey Keitel is the shit. And I never saw a wild thing sorry for itself. A bird will fall frozen dead from a burrow without ever having felt sorry for itself. And with that, I'll see you at the next duel. Take care.
I mean, really, that business with your tongue? What is that? That is disgusting.
And oh my God, that other shit pointing to your lap. I mean, what is that supposed to mean exactly, huh? I mean, does that mean pull over? I want to show you what a big fat slob I am?
Yeah, or does that mean suck my dick?
You women crazy.
You got that right.